Hello everyone, my name is Nikhil Chapade and I am a recent MBA graduate from IIM Kozhikode. Currently, supply chain disruption is a very widely discussed facet of operations management. Hence, I am here to provoke a new thought process in supply chain risk management with the help of concept called supply chain mix. So let's go ahead with it. If you pay attention to the bar chart, you can see how extensively facilities are dependent on a particular geographic region. If we try to refer to the pandemic epicenter Wuhan, you will find that 51,000 companies have one or more direct supplies in the region. Also, there are 5 million companies having tier 2 suppliers in the same region. In a 2010 McKinsey survey, it was found out that 71% of executives agree that their companies are at more risk now than ever of supply chain disruption. Also, it is quite visible as an HBR article highlights that 90% of organizations do not consider risk assessment during outsourcing decisions. So, when it comes to trade between risk and cost has won by big margins as a priority of extended global supply chain management. Now, let's move on to traditional risk assessment tools. Now, when you try to think about this risk management tools, this is a typical picture that comes in front of you because it's all about probability and impact analysis. But what is important here to know that determining probability of a disruptive event is subjective and is highly inaccurate. Also, the scale and nature of global supply chain adds more complexity to it. Further, you have a lot of time constraints because of which only handful of risks can get analyzed. Let me illustrate using an example. If we take example of Ford, which has approximately 50 manufacturing facilities with more than 1,000 one-tier suppliers who have more than 4,000 manufacturing sites. Also, to make it complex, they have 10 tiers of supply network. Ford estimates that it would take them 2 to 3 years to complete a traditional risk assessment of their suppliers. This clearly highlights that we are missing something. But what is it? I believe that we have to figure out which suppliers we should have attention towards a geographic diversification. Additionally, we should also be able to point out those suppliers where we have to go and reach to the lower tiers for risk assessment. As an example, you can visibly see this in 2011 Thailand floods. In Thailand floods, Toyota lost 25% of its operating profits. So that's the impact of trying to address either geographic diversification or maybe going lower tiers of suppliers. Also, risk reduction resources are limited, and thus we have to use these resources, which are usually in terms of supplier investments, efficiently. Let's move on to understand what the supply chain mix concept exactly is. Similar to marketing mix, a supply chain mix is a set of ingredients when analyzed individually and or in combination would assist firm in pursuing risk optimization objectives. So let's move on to these ingredients of the supply chain mix. So these are typically 4 ingredients. First is time to recovery and time to survive. Time to recovery is nothing but if a supplier gets disrupted, how much time it takes him to become fully functional again. Similarly, time to survive is something that if I remove that supplier from my supply chain network, let's say it's because of disruption, how much time still my production will last. So based on this parameter, we can simply assign a criticality factor to the supplier. So if time to recovery is less than time to survive, he is less critical because by the time he will recover, I'll still survive. And also if time to recovery is higher than time to survive, well, he is highly critical to the supply chain. Now let's understand the second mix, that is disruption impact. Disruption impact can be left to the organization how they want to define it. So it can be in terms of lost production, lost capacity, lost sales, or maybe lost net profit, or maybe lost operating profit. Next comes the aspect of supply specialization. So if there is any component or any part of our production that is outsourced to these suppliers, and if it is sensitive to regulatory requirements or to customer experience, then the supply specialization is graded as high, else it is graded as low. And last and the most important aspect, which we refer to indirectly as limited risk management resources, is supplier investment. Which supplier, what kind of investment, and to what degree of investment will help me reduce maximum possible risk in my supply chain. So now moving on to the framework. So if we see, we have 3 frameworks aligned, out of which the third framework is more of an outcome driven, whereas the first 2 frameworks, they can be individually referred to or maybe in combination. We'll see how it goes. So if you see the critical versus disruption impact framework, so there are 4 classifications of suppliers here. So one is the disruptors, which are highly critical and have high disruption impact. Similarly, there are others like obedient because that's how we want them to be, less critical and less impactful. Then we have bottlenecks, which are highly critical but less impactful. That's why they're bottlenecks, because the value of disruption is very less, but still they are very critical for the entire supply chain to proceed. Then is troublemakers, which are less critical and having high impact, hence troublemakers. So this is one aspect of the framework. Second aspect of the framework is supply specialization and disruption impact. So if a supplier produces a very regulatory sensitive or a customer experience sensitive component and thus has a high disruption impact, are classified as kingpins. Second are warlords, which even after not be having very specialized supplies are still causing high disruptions. Then are pawns, the ones that we actually like, not very critical in terms of impact nor specialization. Last is aliens. Now the reason why I named them aliens is because there are less likelihood that there is a component which requires highly specialized approach because of regulations and customer experience, but is leading to low impact. So technically I feel that these suppliers don't exist, hence aliens. Now these 2 frameworks can be visualized as individually or as together. So let's focus on disruptors again. So if you see, disruptors are those suppliers in which you have to go to lower tiers and perform risk assessment accordingly, because these are the ones that are going to cause you trouble when the tide goes high. Also, when it comes to bottlenecks and troublemakers, it will be slightly difficult to understand whom to focus on. So we can take these suppliers, put it in a second framework, that is supply specialization and disruption impact, and see where are these lying in this matrix. So we can focus on investing on them for, again, risk management purposes. Let's move on to the last part of the framework, that is supplier investments and risk reduction. So if you see, kingpins and disruptors are the important suppliers in our supply chain. Hence, higher investment will be required on their side, and correspondingly they will lead to higher risk reductions. But when it comes to troublemakers, bottlenecks, warlords, depending on which industry the supply chain is positioned in, which components they are making, will decide what kind of investments will be required for them and correspondingly risk reduction. Obedient and pawns, well, as they are least likely to disrupt our supply chain, hence relatively lower investments will be required and correspondingly lower impact in risk reduction. So if you look at the mitigation measures, mostly they are focused around kingpins and disruptors because they are the major disruptors of our supply chain. So hence kingpins are, as I said, regulatory sensitive and customer experience sensitive products. So hence the recommendation is to self manufacture it, because it's not just a risk to an organization as a whole, but also to the entire, along with the entire supply chain. Disruptors, on the other hand, we have to focus here on geographic diversification of such suppliers. So let's say if we take an example of India, let's say a supplier has 10 manufacturing sites in Uttar Pradesh. So then we have to incentivize or motivate him to have another manufacturing sites maybe in Maharashtra, and also make sure that lower tier suppliers are also geographically diverse, because if the second tier supplier again goes back to UP, then a single disruption in UP will disrupt your entire supply chain. Also, to enable them this geographical diversification, organizations can consider taking minority stakes in such suppliers. For the rest, that is troublemakers, bottlenecks, warlords, and are obedient and pawns, we can look for multiple sourcing, long-term contracts, and inventory tracking, which are very standard mitigation measures. Hence, the concept I discussed may have gaps, but the main idea was to introduce a new thought process towards traditional management tools, so that when disruption hits us, supply chain would remain resilient. I hope it has fired a few neurons there. Do leave your feedback in the comments, and thank you for your time.